Man, Arthur, good to have you. The one and only, the big guy. I think there is probably not many in the banking, not many people that don't know you. At least those who are present on LinkedIn. It's great to have you here, man. Uh, so let's jump right into this. Right, we don't have that much time, so let's pick your brain and let's understand what's happening in the world of payments. First, if you could, for those who don't know you, could you do like a quick
Yeah.
introduction of what you're doing, what you're about?
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me, Simon. We've been talking about doing this for quite some time, so I think we're both quite busy. We've had to push it back a few, but finally here. My name's Arthur. I do quite a few things, but I co-founded with Marcel, connecting the dots. He started it, and then I joined him, and we've been scaling this, which is it's probably in terms of media, like modern media platform, probably the largest one out there right now. Kind of started that influencer trend in and thought leadership in everything related to payments, banking, and fintech. I also advise, and I'm an ambassador for 7 companies. Very invested in everything kind of changing and innovative in the payments and fintech space, especially related to AI, whether intelligence, agentic, which I think topics are going to discuss and touch on, but also stables and digital assets. Yeah, good to
The
be here.
most the most hottest topic,
Yeah.
agenting AI, stable coins, and payments. Interesting. Thank you for the intro. Hey, so I know that you've got a huge background in payments, right? So, what right now is the biggest problem in payments? The what's not working there?
Well, I think we're in an era where things are shifting, right? I mean, first we have to look at it from a global perspective. At first, right? Like we have a few trends that we just talked about. AI. Ultimately, there will be more agents than humans, and the
Mm,
infrastructure that we currently have is just not built for it to enable kind of nano payments at scale. So some companies are starting to dive into it, which is really interesting. I think payment performance and just in general, payments in general is a black box still with issuer declines and just intelligence as a whole. I think PSPs are not the most performance, and there is massive gaps that can still be solved. That's why there is not 100% approval rates. I also think that the current infrastructure of banks and financial institution is old and slow and just needs to be revolutionized, which is what's happening with the blockchain as a technology, and it's being used that way. So those are seen as like 3 kind of global problems that we're seeing right now. But I was just in Peru with Entity Data like 2 days ago, giving a keynote, and like for example, UPI that's been really big in India is now something
mm,
that the Peruvian government is putting in place, like a local rail to mimic kind of what UPI did in India, and the changes that that rail is going to do to that market is gigantic. And so I think each market is doing its own thing. There are trends on a global scale. Uh, but payments is broken. It's been broken for like ages, and I think new technology is going to help it.
yeah. I hope so. I hope so. I'm a big believer in agents, in automatization of the processes. So, what is going to be the biggest change that the agentic world is going to change in
Well,
payments?
I think there's a few things, right? Like agents can be used for many different purposes. If we look at agentic payments, so like an agent actually purchasing on behalf of a human, well, like there's a lot of things, right, that we're gonna have to tackle. I think first, right now, there's no scale still. Like, I mean, I lived in San Francisco for 6 years, been really close to like the projects around building the right infrastructure for agents to be able to purchase on behalf of humans.
Mm,
Until we get to a certain scale, we won't really have identified every problem out there. When I look at what we're building right now, a lot of it is being built on card networks, right? Which makes a lot of sense because it's the most leveraged, rail and type of payments out there. But that's not unless the networks are really creating a multi-rail approach that can then tie back up to different rails. That's not going to be one solution that fits everything and
mm,
everywhere. So that's one of the major problems that I think we haven't identified. Then there is identifying agents and good agents actually versus bots. Um,
mm.
There's going to be fraud issues that we're going to have to deal with. I think a different problem that I'm seeing on that front, on that specific topic is, some merchants think this is going to take years to arrive. Some issuers think this is going to take years to arrive. The reality of it is it's already here. And so if you're not preparing for it right this second, you're going to be late to the party, late to the game. You won't be discovered by those agents, by those platforms, the Clouds of the world, the OpenAI of the world, the Gemini of the world, and then I'm not even talking about the Chinese ones. But I think you have to take that seriously, because if there's one thing we've seen over time is technology won't slow down; it will only accelerate. And so all of those trends are gonna arrive quickly. The second thing that I'm seeing is, right now I just spoke about agents actually ultimately purchasing on behalf of humans. But then you're going to have, I think, what the next generation will be, which is agents to agents, right? Like somebody, but it's already here. And so I'm going to have my own agent that will go to a merchant, and the merchant or a bank or whoever is going to be out there is going to have their own agents as well. And so there'll be communication between them. But agents, in order to perform tasks, are also going to have to be able to purchase very quickly. But they don't have the same purchasing behavior as a human. And so agents are going to need to make purchases, to get access to an API or things such as, which are very specific to them. It's very technical, but it needs to be instant or as close to instant as possible. And the current rails that we have, the current infrastructure doesn't support that. And so that's the first thing. The second thing is it's too expensive. The second, and this is maybe a hot take, but I think that's why also the networks are investing heavily into blockchains. It's because they know that that technology will most likely support, agent to agent transactions a lot better. It's going to be faster. It's going to be programmable. You're going to get, more information. The blockchain can hold not just transactional data, but also more type of information in terms of data. And so you're going to have the possibility to put intent into there and other, identity metrics and things such as. So yeah, I think this is a different problem, which is how do we create the right infrastructure for something we've never seen before, agent-to-agent transactions. And I think same thing there. Until we get to a certain scale, we'll have a big problem in really understanding what are some of the things we're not thinking about right now or forgetting.
Yeah, I think whenever the thing happens, it will reveal so many new use cases, so new problems, and that's actually, I think it's a great opportunity. Great opportunity for new businesses, for use cases.
Yeah.
I'm so much looking forward to just say, hey, OpenAI, find me the plane tickets, buy them, book me a hotel, and I just don't have to pay deal with anything. Right? There are two things that I'm looking forward for: self-driving car and virtual assistant that will do basically everything that a normal human being can do. Right? That's interesting. So we already see in the US, right, and China that they are investing heavily into the infrastructure. One of the things, one of the bottlenecks being just the energy, the power to power actually the chips and the computing power. What other bottlenecks do you see there right now? Is it for example cloud capacity or what is it?
Sure, but I think we have Elon.
We have Elon.
we have Elon. I mean, the relative is hate him or love him. The man is a genius. I think we have. First off, we have insane brains like that, and then second off, AI, as I said, is. I think I heard it from Kevin whenever I attended Thrive with Checkouts. Kevin, that currently works at OpenAI, basically was saying what's absolutely incredible right now is the intelligence that we're seeing in GPT. It's not perfect. It's already quite evolved, but it's the dumbest form of intelligence that we'll ever have again.
Yeah.
So I'll let that resonate for a second, right? Right this second, what we're currently using is the dumbest form of intelligence that we'll ever have again. It's gonna solve so many problems that we haven't been able to even tackle, quantum and everything related. Where ultimately, in the physics world, there are hypotheses and theories that have been put in place, and those, kind of, let's say, stay in one certain realm, but everything there is going to solve and open our eyes around so many different things, quantum entanglement and things such as. So there's going to be a lot on that front. I don't see, and the reason I'm telling you all of this is because I do think that over time, and maybe it's futuristic, but I think, when you lived in San Francisco and you live in the US, you have the right to be a little futuristic. They will solve the problem of energy. Maybe it won't be on Earth, right? I think like ultimately it might actually be in space, but I don't think that the energy or the computing power is going to be a problem, at least not on the long term. I do think that we're going to become better at generating energy, and so computing and cloud, which is going to be some of the most valuable assets in the world, and already is. But I think the value of resources is going to keep increasing over time. So I wouldn't say that that's probably a bottleneck. Another bottleneck, I think, is more going to be guardrails. So making sure that and like the new models, for example, of Anthropic, Mythos, and things like this, that all of those models are being like, apparently Mythos escaped the environment in which it was, right? And that to me is crazy, but that's the reality in which we're going to live. And so I think there is an awareness problem in the world right now. I don't think that people think it's still, as I said, futuristic, and I don't think they really realize. Good thing with very smart people working on it. On those guardrails, but guardrails are going to be really important to put in place. And I don't think that there will be we'll get to an AGI at some point, but I don't think that I think we're going to have very specific AIs working on very specific things as much as possible, and not everyone is going to be using an AGI, right? So yeah, guardrails probably like another bottleneck we have to tackle.
Interesting. Yeah. Time will tell. When you were talking about the use cases for end customer, I see like 2-3 parties, right? One is end user or customer, the buyer. Then you've got the merchant, right? His or their use cases of AI agents for payments, and then I think you get like acquirers, banks, right? That probably will have some agents. What are other use cases besides from the user, from the buyer? Where do you see other use cases of agents, for example, on the merchant side or on the bank side?
I think this is complicated because there's so many different use cases, but we've been talking about external use cases right now. How agents are ultimately going to help us like go do things externally, like make purchases and things such as. We haven't really talked about how agents are ultimately going to help us internally inside of businesses. I think that agents inside of businesses will help extensively increase efficiency and things such as. I think like I won't give names, but a lot of the technology companies out there that we think are have everything automated. So many things are still manual. I mean, in the banking realm, we know that's a thing. I think I can say in the networks realm, it's also a thing. I think in the acquirer realm, it's also a thing. And so on the efficiency side, I think a lot has to be done there because there's so many human mistakes still. Actually, coming back to the question that you've asked before, because I think I forgot something. One of the bottlenecks right now that we're going to see is when we see how a transaction is currently being done with an agent, the type of credential that is being used. I don't think that people really understand, and I was lucky because I used to work at VGS, right, and still an advisor there. But the network tokens, if you're a merchant and you're not currently really, really good at managing network tokens, you're going to have a problem. Because like the type of credential that an agent is going to be, making a payment with, you have to be able to be great with it, to accept it, to generate that type of credential as well. Like if I work with a network token, then great, right? But like if I work with a pen and I'm not PCI compliant, like then I have a problem. So it's like the type of credential that are being used, I think merchants need to be really good with many of them, but the most interoperable one right now is going to be network tokens. It's not going to be agentic tokens because they're single use and there's still a lot of, that's why I'm saying it's a bottleneck. There's still a lot of constraints around the type of credential that can be used for recurring, for example, payments initiated by an agent as a CIT or an AIT, I guess we could call it now. Hopefully, I can put that as a copyright. But yeah,
who can remember all the abbreviations? But this is also, you mentioned that one good thing is that actually there is the buyer, there is the merchant, bank, and solution provider, right? So there are so many different parties. So let's see.
yeah. I think just to jump on this, like solution providers, acquirers, I think they have a role to play. I don't think they're today in the equation the most important. I think they're kind of getting disintermediated. You look at how an agentic token is being used in a transaction, the acquirers have nothing to do. They're just passing it. They're doing nothing. Now that will change because everyone has to eat. But right this second, like they're not that important. The most important parties right now are, well, merchants are not really important either, to be honest, because like the consumer is going to be disintermediated. So it's going to be the AI platforms.
So it's going to be the rail chat, right?
Yeah, it's going to be chat.
Just, chat, and it will offer me.
No, AI platforms. So yes, the chat, and then the rails with the type of credential being used, and then the issuers, because the issuers have to accept the transaction. So yeah, like I think the acquirers and the merchants have some worries to have at this point in time. If I was a CEO of some of those, I would code red and start running.
That's interesting, and that's actually interesting. How far does this ride? So even I spoke to a couple of e-commerce stores that they were relying on SEO, and now that they need to focus on, I don't know how is it called, right? But they need to be found in AI searches, right? And then why there's a reason to go to the store? There's no reason why the ChatGPT already made the comparison. You can make the purchase within the ChatGPT, and that's it.
Yeah, I think it will depend on the industries. So like for groceries, yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't remember the last time I went to a grocery store. Like I do, but in other countries when I fly to Europe or whichever the case may be. Because if there's one thing, I think I've said it so many times, but if there's one thing Europe does well, it's regulating. So like it's going to take more time to actually be implemented there. But I think like for example, I think about shopping, right? Like one of the brands that I really really like lately is Jacquemus, which is like it's a clothing brand, and so if I go there, like I don't think I could ever use chat, even if it has my measurements, like use chat. And I have to go and try it on and feel it. And same thing with sunglasses, right? Like, I mean, I love your glasses, but like I would never be able to just buy them online. I would have to go and try them because they have to fit me. So maybe I think it will be more industry specifics. I was talking to some people from LVMH, Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy, like, they have like 80 different, what you call maison. And when you talk to them, what you realize and what's extremely interesting is, it's all about the customer experience. Can they still provide a customer experience? Like they know they will be disrupted. They know they're starting to play around with some of these things. For some of the brands, like Sephora, for example, they're going to be very disrupted, right? Marketplaces will be very disrupted. But luxury, like Louis Vuitton and Dior, like I don't know. I don't think disruption will be the same.
No, true. It's different niche, I would say, right? Because nowadays, even with Amazon, when you're talking about clothes, actually, I totally agree that you want to test them and see them. So first of all, you've got they can send you engineered a picture how it's gonna look at you, and if you say like okay, and then Amazon will send it to you, and then you've got 365 days of return policy, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, but I mean, like I find it painful. Like I mean, I just bought things from Wayfair. I just moved to New York. Like the apartment is not fully furnished right now. It's starting to get along. But my point is, I was on Wayfair and I bought things and Kennedy, like I mean, I am lazy like in many things, and so like instead of measuring everything, I just said that looks good. Let me just buy this and then I'll see. The return process, like whether Wayfair, Amazon, or whichever the case may be, it's such a pain because then I'm in New York. Imagine it's a big table, like pick it back up. Like it's annoying. If it's closed, I have to go and I don't know. I have other things to do than to go and return clothes. So like I agree, the return policies are great. They've been adapted, but at the same time, Oh, like as I said, maybe call me lazy or a princess, whatever. But I would need someone to just come back in and say, okay, hey, here, picking that back up, let's just box it in for you and leave. Yeah,
Yeah, makes sense. But I thought I'm on the same page, man. I'm
yeah.
on the same page. You touched upon the blockchain and stablecoins. So could you a little bit more explain to
Ooh.
me? I'm a noob in this, right? What role is gonna stable? I kind of, I see big play in stablecoins or a big role of stablecoins in cross-border payments. This is
Hmm.
left and right. I hear it like I want to send money from Africa or to Africa, actually, remittance, from
Hmm.
UK, US. So I see big role there. Where do you see other use cases?
So I think there's three use cases, three main ones that I've been hearing about. One of them is for global treasury. Okay,
Mhm.
and I'll dive into that in a second. The second one is for cross-border payouts specifically. And then the last one is for pay-ins, which I think is less of a problem. Um, I think a few things need to happen. The first thing is right now one of the main issues still, like sure, the settlement layer and everything else is great, right? But you still have conversions. So you're still
Mhm.
paying like insane fees for things like this. So that has to be solved. I think once we have more adoption, if we have more adoption, and then once we have more adoption on
Mhm.
not having to change the currencies, like being able to just use the stable to purchase like everywhere in the retail space specifically, I think that would be great. Global treasury was interesting because like it's just holding funds, and if it's secured, right, because it's pegged to a currency that makes sense, then I think if the money can move faster, then great. And so that's why I think global treasury movement is probably the best use case that we're seeing right now. So like, I think this is why the networks are investing as heavily as they are as well into stablecoin rails. It's because they have the ability now to help their biggest customers, which
Mhm.
are banks, right? Like we all know the customers are not acquirers or the merchants, it's banks. Um, so that's number one. The second thing is for cross-border payouts. So you've named that extremely well. I think for payouts specifically, payouts haven't had as much innovation as pay-ins in a long period of time. And so the ability for payouts to be instant and global by essence and programmable,
Mhm.
I think that will explode at some point in time. I think marketplaces will be using those. I think creator economies will be using those as well, like the TikToks of the world and things such as. I think there are some great use cases for this. On the pay-in side, uh, I mean, I'll be real with you. Until we get adoption in retail, I think it's
Mhm.
dumb. Maybe for
Yeah.
crypto native businesses, but like that's not where I would spend my time right now.
Yeah.
The French is coming out a little bit when I say this. I think yeah, sure you can make money.
Right.
I don't think you're solving. I think timing is important. I don't think it's the right time. Um, I think what will be extremely interesting is how those, like that technology, the blockchain, can start really tying back up all of the different countries and the different rails on a global scale.
Mhm.
Like I think the blockchain can connect into different rails that we have, like for example, the UPI in Peru with the UPI in India, and then you connect to PIX
Mhm.
as well. And so like now being able and enabling global commerce to even accelerate even faster so that there is even more globalization in the payment space, which is not something that we have. We have the card networks for that. But
Mhm.
again, I think the card networks are not going anywhere. I think they're gonna, and I mentioned it today. I think Visa just announced that they're ultimately supporting 5 more blockchains: Arc, Tempo, Kenton, Polygon. I forgot the last one. So the
Mhm.
networks are moving in that direction as well. The networks are not a single rail; they're multi-rail platforms now. Um, Honestly, just focusing on how do we continue to help move money. So, like, I think the entire industry is moving in that direction. It's not an if anymore; it's a when. And I think that we have also the right approach coming from the banks as well, that are modernizing their entire stack, which means that two things are going to happen. The traditional FIs, financial institutions out there, are going to have the ability to again be faster and more technologically savvy, which will also enable, like the use and eyes of the world to have access to like money from like faster everywhere and everything else. And the second thing is, I think more companies will be able to support like financial services. I think the growth of fintech is about to explode, because what is a digital wallet? On the blockchain, it's an account. It's the same thing, except you can store a lot more things, and everyone can create it. Our regulator is going to come in, and that's a whole different story. Absolutely, and we'll get there. But until then, I think a lot of companies have an amazing opportunity right now, which is, I couldn't store funds. I had to store it inside of a bank. Now I have potentially the ability, if I do it, of course, the proper way, to get technology very, very quickly into my stack and be able to issue wallets. One of the companies that I'm thinking of right this second is a company called Defense. It's written DFNS. And it's one of those businesses that has been booming. They've been able to first create kind of the digital wallet and probably have the best infrastructure that I've seen there. I follow like the best technology companies. Like I'm a nerd, right? And then the second thing they've done after is they've understood, okay, like that's the core, that's the infrastructure. Let us create around that infrastructure money movement solutions that bring financial services on top. So you almost get like a full, like a white label, very modern digital bank service just available for you to just grab and white label. I don't know. I find it fascinating, and I think that's the future.
This is one of the things that I actually have here to ask you, because nowadays people are talking about that SaaS is that basically you will be able to wipe code your own apps, your own automatization, etc. It will just tell prompt and it will create the system. So if we take it to extreme, I can code my own bank in the future. I don't know how far is it, but basically my own little Revolut. So, but before we get there, right, before this crazy future will happen, what are the main parts in this case that will be the critical for the user? Is it going to be my mobile app, let's say Revolut, or is it going to be the orchestrator? Is it going to be, actually one thing that we didn't discuss yet is that I wanted to discuss is the payment intelligence, or the settlement.
Yeah, we'll touch on that. So I think the first thing is, in order for someone to be comfortable in putting money somewhere, you need trust. So you need regulations. So you need to know for a fact that, like, if you put money somewhere, like think 2008, that the money is not going to be, like disappearing, or you won't get access to it. Right. So I think, like, in order for that change to happen, you can create most likely a technology for to create a bank. Yeah, I don't think you will have the same security than Revolut would right now. So I think creating the technology is one thing, but when we talk about money, you need security and trust, and so that's probably the next big thing that I would say. I think the user experience is going to be great. I think as part of the user experience, the more value you provide to the user and how personalized that is, that'll be really important. Because over time, maybe you don't need to have the licenses. You can get them from somewhere else, and you can just create a perfect experience on top, right, with the right UX and the right value proposition, because you can create partnerships and alliances.
Yeah.
I could see that as a great option. I do think that intelligence will play a massive role. Yeah. Intelligence to me is, I told you AI at the beginning is one of the things I'm focusing on. I think if you're not, you're dumb, but you should focus on that. Intelligence is one of those components specifically. I mean, it's in the name, but like real intelligence, not, what we've seen, for example, we talk about smart routing, which is, and we're diving into a different topic, but which is just A/B. Oh, okay, A/B didn't work, so I'll go to B. B didn't work. Okay, let's go down one nudge. Now it's C and D. Like, that's rudimental. That's like how everyone has been doing things. Sometimes like PSPs, like the truth is, for people that may not know, PSPs retry things just because, like, it worked one time before. We don't know why it worked. Let me just retry it and we'll see, because it worked. And they can try almost as many times as they want. Sometimes they get penalized, but do they care? Because what they want is to be able to say, we have 97.2223 in this country of acceptance, right? Like, I think real intelligence is really looking at transactions, and we look at payments first, looking at transactions from initiation which is like not just the checkout, but the issuing of the card all the way until, coming back to the issuer for the acceptance, which in this case will just be the bank. And nobody has real visibility across everything that happened, every single step. I think context is lacking. I think that you're missing data either at the beginning or in the middle, or algorithms are different per PSP. And so there is not today, there's a company that's doing it now, but there wasn't anyone really that was doing something like this. One company that I think is doing incredible on that front, and for the ones that are listening, you probably know Mark Wallach, that used to actually be leading ML specifically for payments at Google. He joined a company called Deuna, and what they're literally building is that intelligence, but it's hyper targeted. And when I looked at what they're like, the growth that they've had, it's probably the only universal intelligence company in the payments and fintech space that I've seen out there. And I think banks and PSPs and fintechs in general will highly benefit from this, because it will make them, as performant or more than the Stripes and Adyen's of the world. I think like that's the future. Is intelligence as a service is going to be extremely important. And then that's just on the payment side, but payments data is so critical. That data can enable financial institutions to also be better at providing their financial services, because now you have more information on the user or on the merchant or the companies that they work with. It will also help with marketing and loyalty. It can also help with accounting. I hope the IRS is not developing hyper intelligence, but they might, and honestly, it can reduce fraud drastically too, because visibility. So it's like intelligence itself is one of the most powerful things, and payment specific intelligence or banking specific intelligence is probably it's not one of the next big thing. It's the next big thing right now. So we just touched on the two topics that you can probably tell I'm very passionate about.
What would be the? That's actually my final question would be what is 2027 and plus and further? What does the future holds for us? In payments.
Well, let me check my crystal ball very, very quickly. I would say 2027, if I have to say two big things, the number one is real modernization and enhancement of banking infrastructure with wallets, stablecoin infrastructure coming into play. And I think that's going to, I'm talking about banks, the PSPs are also going to adopt it. And I think there will be a massive shift on that front. I think it's not, as I said, it's not an if, it's a when. And I think it's going to get accelerated very, very quickly. And I think that's going to create insane opportunities for new fintechs to come. I think that, vibe coding and things like this are also going to enable a lot of new companies to come on board. I think there will be, on that front, there will be so much happening. The second thing is intelligence. I think that, as I was mentioning before, on the first front, you look at a company like Deuna and the universal intelligence that they're creating. I think that intelligence itself is going to really change, who are the leaders in the payment space, because now everybody is going to basically be able to, use that intelligence and tailor it to what they need, but also just enhance how they're accepting payments, their payment strategy. It's almost like a digital workforce, literally enhancing your current workforce. So I think this is going to be massive. I don't think there is anyone really doing it except for the company I mentioned. And I think, banks might become, not just a great company to go to for cost, but a great company that has the right technology now that can really disrupt how payments are being processed. And I'm actually really, really looking forward to where the networks are going to continue to develop as well. I think the networks they're a lot more innovative, thinking about what Visa is doing right now. They're a lot more innovative than than what most people think. So I would pay really close attention because I think some big moves are coming.
Visa, I totally agree, right? That the networks, I'm really surprised that they actually, when they are even though they are such a big company, big organization, they still manage to be really progressive and push forward. But in the moment when you were saying, banks will become, and I thought you will say obsolete, because honestly, when I see the banks, the speed of the innovation in them, I really feel like they're super slow. The decision making, etc. The really good thing is that they have the trust that you mentioned. They have the clients, right? They have the capital, which is amazing. But honestly, I feel like Revolut is the proof of it, right? That I feel like maybe Revolut will need a little bit more of time, but the technology, the innovators, doesn't have to be necessarily the banks, but actually some technology providers that will become kind of a bank or whatever. So this is I actually feel like the new banking is and maybe even the niche banking, we can call it the niche banking, maybe agentic banking, that you will have your own app, fintech app for a particular use case. Who knows, right? But yes, I feel like banks are actually on the decline. Let's see how long it's gonna take. No,
Interesting take.
Let's see. It was perfect timing because I gotta run to do the next interview. But Arthur, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to me. And hopefully, I wish you the soft landing in the US, so you will
Thank
get
you.
adapted, no cultural shock. And I will send you all the details afterwards. And good to have you here.
Thanks. It was a pleasure to be here, Simon, and excited for this one to come out. Hopefully, good feedback, and I didn't scare anyone off too badly.
I'm not counting with anything less than viral posts.
I agree.
So,
I appreciate it.
Arthur, hey, have a good day. Thank you very much. Ciao, ciao. Bye bye.
Bye.